Hi, I'm Romi.
And I'm Nicole.
We are two businesswomen, two colleagues, two friends who had an idea and decided to do something with it. Over the past 2 years, we've built the Daily Drip, a media platform and community for the modern South Florida businesswoman.
From Palm Beach to South Beach, we've built an audience of thousands of local business owners, CEOs, founders, executives, and more. And we did it 100% organically.
Whether it's through our blog, weekly newsletter, social media, events, or even this podcast, our mission is to offer a daily drop of inspiration as you pursue your dreams.
People ask us all the time how we did it and why we did it. Join us as we bring you along our journey and the journeys of so many other incredible local businesswomen here on Her Pursuit.
Hello, and welcome back to the Her Pursuit podcast. And I'm Romi Wallach, co-founder of The Daily Drip. And my guests today are Michelle Hernandez, commercial realtor and founder of Legs Miami, Melia Arnett-Archie, attorney, owner of the VoiceBox Studio, where we're actually recording today and record all of our podcasts, and Dr. Julie Radlauer. She is a mental health professional, researcher, shenanigans, author, and TEDx speaker. So today, and I'm really excited to welcome you all because I think we all have something to weigh in on as we talk about the startup stage and the art of rolling up our sleeves as we start this journey of entrepreneurship, the DIY aspect, and really what it's like to start off doing everything yourself, and then when you kind of start to feel the overwhelm or feel like it's time to start moving on. So I'll start with you, Michelle, because we've talked a lot about this, and especially as you're coming up to your 1-year anniversary, congratulations, for Legs Miami. So talk a little bit about like how this has been, because you've been a one-woman show starting this in Miami. You had a little tiny bit of support because this was something that was in other markets, but not here for you personally.
Yeah. So when I got introduced to Legs, I just fell in love with the concept, but the closest chapter to me was Boca. And I just knew I wanted this in Miami, closer to home. And I just felt like there were so many women that could benefit from learning golf. And so I just had a call with Jillian, the founder of Legs, and I'm not kidding, within like a month I had my first event, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Share a little bit about what Legs stands for just as we go into this, because I don't know that everyone knows.
Legs stands for Ladies Executive Golf Society. So when I was introduced, I just loved the whole concept. I love that it's, connecting business and golf. It's not just about golf. Like, I love golf and I love having fun golfing, but I am also in my own business and my own entrepreneur in commercial real estate. So any way that I could build relationships in a way that I find fun is just a plus. So that's where I was like, this is a no-brainer, connecting people on the golf course and just doing this kind of community building was what I really wanted. It just felt like a no-brainer. I was like, okay, I just dove right in. However, diving right in, I really had no idea what I was getting myself into, and hosting an event of such a caliber. And, it's funny, I was listening to your first podcast, and I related to so many of the things you guys said. It's like, you just got to jump in, like, don't be scared, all those things. But it's like, you don't realize how much of it falls on you. And I think it was all of it falls on you. And I remember Bethany, who became my VP really early on, because she was someone that I was already like looking up to and like kind of mentoring me in real estate. And then she loved what I was doing with Legs and wanted to help me. But she was the first one. She's a little more senior. She's been in the business for a little bit longer than me, like 10 years. So she was like, wait, how are you doing this all? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. She's like, are you like, how? Like, I just don't understand. And I was like, I don't either. Like, I don't. And she's like, you have to start delegating. And she was really one of the first people that helped me realize that I need to start letting go a little bit and asking for help. And, voicing what it is that I needed to pass on to someone else. There was so much networking that I was doing myself and marketing that I was doing everything. And it was just aside from my business. And it was like just carrying 2 elephants is what I felt like.
And I think it's important to note, and it's very similar to, and you're in the same position, that we're all building businesses on the side of working full-time businesses and jobs. It's not like this is the only thing you are doing. So you're actively working your commercial real estate career and launching a new business, which had some framework, but no traction yet. So you had to make sure you were getting it all out there.
All of it.
And making sure all the people were showing up.
Everything. I mean, I was literally working like multiple jobs at once is really how it felt, and still feels some days, really, because even though I have delegated and have some help now, there is just so much that it doesn't have the same touch as when I do it myself. And I mean, you could tell me if that's a psychological issue. You might be able to weigh in a little bit on that side, but it's not that, like, my team is so great at putting the content together now and sending out an email blast and all of that, but this is a people business. I have to make these contacts. I have to make this touch, because no matter what, a lot of the people that have been introduced to LEGS, Ladies Executive Golf Society of Miami, have been through me. So in a lot of ways, they want to talk to me. They want to show up to see me. They want to talk to the members of LEGS. Like, they want that connection to us. I can't just host LEGS, put on an event, and like not show up.
Well, and I think that when you're the entrepreneur behind the business, it's hard to imagine that someone else is going to be able to relay and have the same passion. And like, I mean, when it's yours, it's hard to imagine that somebody else is going to be able to step in and have the same level of enthusiasm, commitment, care for all of that. And I mean, we watched you circling around here. You're managing your own law firm. You've got this podcast studio, and you're doing all the things also with a little bit of help. But you know what that's like. Yeah. So,
I think for me, it's the question of, not can you do it, but should you be doing it? And, that is what I've started to have to ask myself. Launch 2 businesses on the same day. Hindsight being 2020, probably not the smartest thing to do. I could have waited, right, and got one off the ground. But, here we are. And I think I would do it all over again, but just with the understanding of that question. What should you be doing versus what can you do? Because I'm good at a lot of things, and I enjoy doing a lot of things, but the reality is there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only one of me. There's only so much energy allotted for the day. And if I'm focusing on the things I should be doing and, delegating or, hiring contractors to get some of the things off my plate that I can do but shouldn't be doing, I'm better at the things, right, that I should be doing.
Well, I guess the question, though, is that you're now 2 years in, so it takes...
Not even one.
Oh, okay.
January 14th.
Okay, so then we're all on the same stage. So I feel like the important thing to note on that is that there is going to be, and I think we're all kind of getting into that next phase, but this first year is really, I mean, you don't really have anything to delegate yet, because you're still kind of figuring it out, right? So you're like actively working all the different parts and figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and it's mentally draining.
It's important.
Well, and especially and what's interesting actually about the 3 of us is we're all doing more than one business at a time. So the mental bandwidth, there's only so much, and the stress and trying to manage and balance like the toggle between both and how to give that attention that it needs, which both require, like, how do you reconcile that? Like, how do you manage that so you don't totally break down and crack, like I may or may not have done recently. I may or may not have been on the floor asleep with my dog last night.
Not in full disclosure, but maybe it happened, or maybe not.
Asking for a friend.
Right.
Me.
Right. Me.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm in the same situation too, because I do have a business that's more of a formal business where I do a lot of training and coaching, technical assistance with like federal grants and state grants and local grants, which is very professional, if you will. And then on the other side of it is I'm doing a lot of speaking and research, and the more exciting, like sharing research on social media and that kind of stuff, which is the more thought leadership stuff. So they're separate. I actually have separate websites, like they are 2 separate businesses, and I do have to grow my professional business on a regular basis because that's really what pays for the other fun stuff, that I'm trying to develop over here so that I can continue to share mental health knowledge. But I loved what Melia said in terms of looking at your life as a plate, and every aspect of your life is a different piece of the pie, and you only have one circle, in order. So it's like if you spend 20% of your time with your family, would say, which is terrible, but that might be true. You know, right? And 10% working out. And, you know, like how much of your time can you spend sending emails? And so you know, you have to really look at how much time do I actually have in a day, and how can I allocate that time so that when I get my needs met, which should be number one, then secondly, right, that should be number one. I know we're women, so it's not, but it should be. We should reconsider that. But then also, you know, if I'm going to keep my business alive, how much do I have to allocate towards that? And on a regular basis, you should be looking at the allocation of your time to see, am I doing this properly? It's something that I recently just did, because it was more like a 80% work, 10% working out, 10% with my family. And, you know, my children, I have twins that are getting ready to go to college. I have one in college. So, like, this is like my last year with them. And I was like, I need to hang on. Now, of course, they don't want to spend time with me because they're teenage boys. But in a perfect world, we would be spending lots of time together. You know, so I have to look at that and reallocate. So within my business, what are the things that I must do versus the things that I can find somebody else to do? And some things don't get done.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's it too. And the things that don't get done, maybe they weren't like the priority. They were just things that I thought needed to get done. But for example, my social media. I have somebody that does my social media for me because social media gives me anxiety. Right. And, you know, we were posting all the time, which meant I had to be creating content all the time so that she could make it look pretty and send it out into the universe, right? But that was a big time suck for me. So I was like, you know what, let's just back off on the social media a little bit. Nobody's going to even notice. And so now we don't post as frequently. And that's a short-term thing. Right. You know, when I have time again, I will...
You're reallocating.
Yeah. So, and it's okay.
What's been interesting is our approach this year for the Daily Drip, and I'm curious to know how each of you like sort of attacked your first year. Attack, I guess, is the only word I can think of, is, you know, going into year two, Nicole and I evaluated what we did for year one and what our objectives and goals were for year two. And so a big part of that was event marketing. That was really sort of the core of growing our brand and growing our presence, was associating ourselves with different groups and organizations in order to highlight them, but also bring in the kind of people we were looking to meet, other professional women that would benefit and that would participate in the kind of community we were building. So it was an unavoidable and extremely depleting year for us in that way. I mean, we really both, I mean, especially after the anniversary party, I hope Nicole doesn't kill me for sharing, but it was like, next morning, how are you doing? Because I'm not okay. And we both really felt that. But I say this only to say, and I want other people to understand this, it was something we knew we had to do. It was not going to be like this. It's not sustainable. And we already planned for 2024 because this approach was successful for us. It accomplished exactly what we needed, even to the detriment of like our mental health, overall health, my eyes twitching. I mean, it's all the things. And that speaks to sort of the strategy and the DIY of what this year looked like for us. But I'm curious as to what it looked like for each of you. Like, what were those activities like that you're like, I had to grind, I had to do this. It was the right thing to do, and I ain't doing it again next year, you know? So what does that look like for you?
So year one of Legs Miami was me deciding all the dates, all the locations, all the sponsors, and it was like every month I had to start all over again. And that was so intense. Aside from like, I have this client, I have this, I'm searching for this, I am trying to do all these other things. And, you know, life doesn't stop because I have an event to do. Like,
don't you wish it could though? Like,
I mean, it'd be great. It'd be great if I could just stop everything else and focus on marketing my event and have a great event and every event be fantastic. But that's not like it's not reality. Like, everything else continues. People have 1,000 other things going on in their own lives. Like, people are going to miss things. So what did I do? This year, I finally finished putting together a board, put together a board for Legs, which was, thank you, which was, you know, you don't get paid to be on the board. So, and I don't get paid to run Legs. So let's just be clear. This is a passion project. This is something that I am passionate about. I'm passionate about women learning the basics of golf so that if they're in a professional environment, they can say yes to golf tournaments, have the confidence to show up on the golf course and not miss these networking opportunities. That is my Goal and the purpose with legs. That's why it's Ladies Executive Golf Society. These events. What I realized was I have this board. I cannot be the sole person in charge of running and organizing every single event. We have 12 events, one a month. And what I did was I said, who wants an event this month? And everyone on the board now has ownership of an event. So
Yeah, wicked smart. And
this is year 2. I don't know how smoothly this is gonna go, but that is my intention is that if Romi, you are in charge of January, you want this course because this course is close to you.
Did you not hear me say I don't want to do events anymore?
This is hypothetical.
But I will show up and I'll bring all the people.
But hypothetically, let's say I designated one to you. You said, yes, I want to do that. Okay, what foundation do you want to partner with? Who do you want to collaborate with? And which course is your favorite course? And that's what I did for them. I said, I want you to want it to be like, treat it like it's your event. So I'm going to help you and support you. And we have a whole team. I have admin for legs and I have marketing virtual assistants. So they have all the support they need on that side. I figured that part out year 1. But now for year 2, I'm really hoping that dates are preset, things are preset. I'm really trying to go into 2024 with like, okay, we got the courses lined up. You know who you're collaborating with and you're running that. So
That's brilliant. Like brilliant. I love that. And I think no, don't worry. I don't know if you know that Nicole and I were way too control freaky for that kind of stuff. But that's what thought leaders are to us, really, is ambassadors of what we're doing. And that's really what you've found and doing one event in a year for these people is so manageable. It really is. Like it's a manageable task and you're there to help and show the way. So I feel like awesome. All right, you're up.
For me, you start your business with a business plan, right? And, you have all of these fantastic ideas about what's going to work and what won't work. And that's how you sort of chart the course. So in the first year, what I'm realizing is I have to be flexible because some things just flat out didn't work out the way that I thought they would. They didn't yield the returns that I was hoping for. And so what I've learned throughout this first year is it's okay. It's okay to try something out for a while and realize, hey, I thought I was going to really love that, and I don't. Like, for example, here at the studio, I really thought that the hourly rentals of the studio would drive, like, a lot of the business, and it hasn't yielded, and I have much more fun doing the full productions like this, right? And so it's, turning that corner to say, it's all right, it's not a failure. You don't lose, you learn. So I learned that, that's not where I want to be spending my time. And I think going into the second year, it's more of that sort of assessment of, what's working, but going back to my why. I didn't leave corporate to be unhappy doing this. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Not easy, but satisfying, right? Like fulfilling. And when I start to do things that bring me further away from that fulfillment and from that overall satisfaction and getting up every day and coming over here and sweating it out, then I know that something's wrong. And so for me, it's sort of making those pivots sooner. To your point, surrounding myself with other people that can be invested in my dream. So VoiceBox and the law firm, I didn't have the benefit of having a franchise where there's like a framework. It is literally like creating, of course you do market research, but you never know what it's going to mean for you.
Playing while you're flying.
Exactly.
The Daily Drip is exactly that. And you guys are all part of the hopefully not plane crash.
We're flying. We're doing it. It's happening, and it's reminding yourself of that. But it is also, putting people in the circle that can help you get to decisions quicker. That's my goal for 2024 is to make sure I have, even if it's an informal board of directors, folks that can have input and access to what I'm doing to, help me get to those decision points, because there were a couple of things that I probably held on to because I was so committed to that business plan, right? And so that's where I'm focused.
When we started the beginning of this year and we said, okay, we'll be really happy if we book 1 or 2 events. Meanwhile, we had, I think, 9. But our first event, we allowed that particular collaboration to have more input into the structure of what that event was supposed to look like. And it was a really good learning experience for Nicole and I to sort of say, okay, we need to be strong and firm in our convictions about who and what we are and how we run things. And we are not going to bend and mold in the sense that we're getting veered off track. And so it was, while the event itself was somewhat of a flop to some degree, it was such a good experience for us because it actually reaffirmed exactly where we were going. And from that event to the rest of them throughout the year, they just got better and better. But it gave us like some clarity in terms of like being really rooted in this and what we were doing. Right.
Challenge, right? So
I mean, we were like, if we could get 8 thought leaders this year, and all of a sudden we're like, we have 30 of the most incredible humans. Like, what is happening? And you, with a vision of TEDx, and talk about that because, yes, you, Dr. Julie Shenanigan, talk about like what that was like to sort of work towards that goal and what you had to do to get to that, because that was a major thing.
That was a bucket list item. It definitely was. It's so interesting for me, I tend to be somebody who's like, well, the things that are meant for me will happen for me. And I know that sounds so ridiculous to like live your life that way, but I didn't realize how much I actually do that. That was one of those things. The TEDx was something where I was like, you know what? I love speaking. I do it on a regular basis. I want to kick it up a notch. I feel like I've worked in this industry, in the mental health industry, for long enough that I have something to contribute to society, to younger people who are coming into the field. And I feel like I'm in a position where, you know, as long as I can help support my family, that I want to give back to the greater good. And so that's what TED was for me, was an opportunity to share information with people that I know are struggling with mental health right now, which these days is everybody. But at the time, actually, it was everybody too. Right. I think that might be an ongoing thing. And so, you know, I just threw it out into the universe. I was sitting in a meeting, I think, in one of the Daily Drip meetings and saying, you know, like, this is something that I really want to do. There happened to be somebody in the room who was like, oh, I think I know somebody that knows somebody that could make that, you know, a possibility. And I was fortunate enough. You want to hear a really interesting story? I do a twice a year quarterly strategic planning with just my best friend, who also is a women business owner. And we go somewhere fun and hike and spa and whatever, but we also do strategic planning. And she helps me with my business. I help her with her business. She's very much in the finance space, which is why I can say, like, let me throw it into the universe and something's going to happen, because she's like, no, that's not going to happen. Try a different universe. That one's not going to work, you know? And so, right, exactly. She's like, it squashes my dreams. No, but she keeps me, you know, grounded in reality. And so we were in Sedona, which is kind of a woo-woo place. And we were working with it. We met a coach. You know, we had scheduled a coaching session. And while we're sitting there talking to the coach, she's, you know, asking me and getting to know me and asking me all the questions and what do I want to do. And I said, I was telling her all about I Am. And she looks at me, she goes, you're going to do a TED Talk. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, that's on my list. I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. You know, we just kept talking. The hour that I was talking to her is when I got the text inviting me to submit my application to the TED Talk. Isn't that weird? Like literally in the hour that happened. And I was like, oh, that's creepy. Yeah, so go to Sedona, book Sedona.
We're going to make a Daily Drip trip there, and we're just going to put all of it out in the universe in Sedona. I love it.
It was so bizarre. And people like submit applications for years to get accepted. And it was like, how did this happen? Like this just fell into my lap. You know, so I felt like it was, well, it was my time to share my information about mental health, you know, like that was what was it, but I wouldn't have been in the room without Daily Drip. You know what I mean? Like I was that's what I mean. Like I feel like things just align for me.
It's funny because one of the things we were going to talk about today, and I as I'm looking at the question, and it's like, what are activities that you can do to generate the biggest output with low effort activity with the highest output? And I have to be honest, it's a strange question to me because I don't think there was anything that required little energy for maximum output in this past year. Like I think everything required a healthy amount of energy for the results that we were looking for. And so if I were to think about that, I guess to some degree it was me networking, you know, which was generating that, but I wouldn't call it low energy. It was incredibly depleting. I mean, everyone's like, I see you everywhere and you love it. And I do, because I'm personally charged by being around good people. I love that, but I recharge by myself. And so I went really hardcore in that for a long time. And in the last few weeks specifically, I've missed events because I just needed to like not be with people.
I want to just add something to your question though, because I think it's a really, really good question. Is I think that we succeed the most when the things that we're doing are in line with our strengths. And so I feel like the question really is, what are the strengths that you have that like have helped you level up? Because I think that that's important. I think anybody who wants to go into this world, you have to recognize and be aware of what are the things I'm good at, what are the things I like, and then what are the things that I can find other people to support me in. Otherwise, you're going to go under.
Yeah, and I mean, for me and Nick, like I think the fact that there's two of us makes our journey a little bit different because we're not doing this alone, and we naturally kind of fell into where we belong. Like there was never even a question. Like I don't even understand half the lingo. I've been learning it as I go along, but like there was no, I mean, she's just, yeah, I'm like, Nick's like, well, do you understand? I was like, I don't have to. I'm just going to tell him to go to you. Like that's how I connect people. I'm like, you don't need to know what they do except to know that they're going to be awesome for you and just do that. So yeah, we were fortunate in that sense. And yeah, it is something, but it's still not low energy.
And that's why reframing the question is important because it's relative to all of the things that are draining your energy. Like, you know, it's producing, it's still requiring a lot of energy. But to Dr. Julie's point, you don't hate doing it, right? Like this is your strength. Like you do it by accident. Like I'm talking to Romi yesterday about something completely unrelated to networking. She's like, oh, I left the call with 3 people I have to meet. Like that's not, yes, it took energy to do that, but you didn't feel depleted, right?
You just naturally, organically do it.
Exactly.
So is that for you, was that the part where you realized like doing all of the production like that, even though maybe it's a little bit more, it was less taxing because you were really excited to do like the whole thing rather than an hour of just renting out studio space?
Yeah. It was a lot more taxing for me to chase like the hourly rentals and, you know, people doing that whole story than to be invested in someone's longer term vision for like, you know, how they're telling their story. And so I could immediately see like, I want to spend my energy here because yes, it takes a lot. In fact, it's a lot more intense than just open up the door and letting you come in. But I get more out of it. And I think that's the important question is, you know, what are you doing to grow the business, but that you can also be connected passionately to it and have your cup filled while you're doing it.
Like it makes you feel whole.
When I leave here, like after this, I'm like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. Do you know what I mean? And that gives me the energy. So it took something, but I'm also energized by it at the same time.
Yeah, it's when I did that, I did my first keynote a couple weeks or last week, and it was very nerve-wracking, and I keep laughing because people are like, but it's your thing. I'm like, I think you have to do something more than once for it to be your thing. So it's not actually my thing. But I was, as nervous and anxious as I was so energized from doing it and just how I felt after. I couldn't sleep that night. I was like up in like a good way. Like usually I don't sleep for all sorts of other reasons, but it was really like, it was really energizing. It was really kind of exciting because I felt...
Those nerves just mean it's important to you. Yeah. That's what those nerves mean.
And I got to speak on something I was passionate about. And I think that is really like the common thread. And I think that what makes all of this entrepreneurial journey worthwhile is as hard and exhausting as it is, when you're doing something you are so certain you're meant to be doing and you're so like you just kind of stay focused on it, even though you're dying a little bit on the inside. It's also, just a little piece at a time. But it's so worth it. And I think that's why conversations like these and communities of entrepreneurs who can talk about what are you doing? How did you get through your first year? What, and supporting each other is so important. And you?
For me, I could relate to what you said. It's like for the events, networking was something that I feel very much the same. Like I recharge alone. 2023, I did so much in-person networking to grow legs. And it's great. But that is one of the most taxing things about it. And it's not that I think it killed me. I think it just aged me. Because it, like, once the event happens, it's the same feeling. It's like, I'm there. I can't go to sleep now. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm physically, mentally exhausted, and I'm wide awake. I'm like just wide awake. I can't like let it go. But it's the part that really excites me is finally being on the course, finally being at the club and seeing so many ladies there. That just makes me so happy. Like today I'm actually playing in Cruise golf tournament, so commercial real estate women. They have a golf tournament today, and I'm just so excited to actually see hopefully more than 5 ladies at a golf tournament. So I'm really pumped about that. And just, you know, it's like that part, like once you finally get to the event and I see women actually came to golf, awesome. Like I'm just so thrilled. The connecting part comes so natural. And it's just like, I feel like very similar to Romi in that sense where like, all of a sudden I hear what you do and I'm like, oh, I know exactly who you should talk to. Right. I love that part. I'm like, oh, I know someone that I think would be great for you. And it's like, that part is so simple. Yeah. But it's the getting to it, you know, it's like, it's a lot. That was the amount of effort that it took that even for real estate, I mean, that constantly going to as many events as I went to in 23. I lost track. I wish I would have tracked it better. If someone would go through my bank account and do that for me, I mean, I have a friend that could do that for you. Honestly, I don't even know if I want them to. Like, when I think I did my taxes and I itemize them all, I was just like, oh my goodness, how much money did I spend networking?
But that's important for startups because in my first year, I think I joined everything. If you asked me to join it, like I'm in. I mean, I just need to meet people. But you know, about halfway through this first year, what I realized was not everything was, you know, productive for me energy-wise, but as well as business. And so it's, you know, being able to track that to say, I don't want to be out here just doing this to be doing it for the sake of saying, I know I need to network and I need to be connecting, but where am I best and what is best for my business? And so I had to scale back on some of those to say, me going here isn't really benefiting the end goal. So I love you, but I'm going to have to bow out. And, you know, that even was at the expense of some fees that I already paid because my energy was more important. And so I think for startups, that's part of it too, is, you know, doing that assessment often, like where are you spending your energy? And if it's not yielding, like quickly, you know, shutting it down so you can be directed in the areas that are yielding.
Before you put more time, effort, and energy into something, you definitely need to spend time looking at the return on investment. That ROI is so important because, again, you only have one plate full of energy, so you can't just keep expending it.
And it speaks to the strategy.
I had that wake up like when I had my planning session, you know, when I was preparing for it, I was going to be with the whole board and everything. I was like, okay, I really started Legs Miami because I personally wanted to play more golf with women. And 2023 was all about getting the word out there. Well, 2024 is all about meeting me on the golf course to play. It's like, if you want to connect, like, that's where I'm doing my networking this year. That's where. So, like, golf tournament, you want to meet. I'll bring an instructor to come help you if you're a beginner, but I want to meet on the golf course. Like, I want to be doing networking where I want to have fun and improve my game. So I am completely, like, my whole branding for 2024 is golf and real estate. And if you want to connect and actually build a relationship, I want to bring you onto the golf course to do it.
And I think that's exactly like that sort of brings us to sort of the end of this, in the sense that what strategies did you use, and not getting so attached and being able to sort of take that time to reevaluate and be like, okay, it worked and it got me where I needed to get me to. But now I've earned, you know, the reward of that is that now I get to do it this way going into the new year. I mean, for us, it's like we were looking to expand our, you know, people know who we are. And now that we have the attention on our website, we can maximize how we show up digitally, you know, as much, actually more so than physically necessarily. And it's funny because I started in financial services 5 years ago and I didn't know about networking in the sense that I'd never done anything required it. And I went to everything that said networking after it. Like, meanwhile, I'm trying to connect with women who are moms, and I'm showing up at events in the middle of the week in Coral Gables at 5 o'clock. There's no moms there. They're picking up their kids. But I saw networking. And so it took me a while to sort of also get more strategic. And you don't know what doesn't work until you try it. I will say, like, one way to avoid like the pitfalls of spending so much money in that is try and guest a lot of that stuff as much as possible. I learned the hard way doing that, but you can also find a lot of ways to participate in some of these organizations without having to jump all in. And somebody like me, like, I love supporting people. So I meet someone and they have a group and I'm like, of course I'll come. And then I feel bad, but you only have so many hours in a day, to be able to do that. So we're pivoting our strategy for 2024. You're doing yours. And what is your new 2024? What are you leaving behind and moving towards?
I'm leaving behind the superhero cape. And I'm asking for help and receiving it. And I think the Daily Drip was sort of the first step towards that, even this relationship with the podcast, right? I had a need. You all needed a place to shoot, and we were able to work out a very good relationship where we became your community partners. And it has helped me in more ways than I could ever articulate, right? Just building the business, but also being a part of a community where I'm being poured into, right? And so, but it was me being vulnerable enough outside of just being a thought leader to say, I need this help, right? This community partnership relationship that we are in, I needed to be vulnerable enough to say, yes, like I have something to offer. And I have a lot that I can receive from this relationship. And so in 2024, I'm going to do more of that, like being vulnerable enough as a woman, and we're so horrible at this, to identify, yes, I do need help, and to recognize that help might look differently than how we planned it, and receiving it.
I think I'm approaching it from a different space in that what I really intend to do in 2024 is to use the research in my own practice more than I have done before. I know the research. I share the research on a regular basis, but I don't necessarily always live by it. And I think that I really am making an intentional focus to center what science says works in all of the things that I do. So I am a solo entrepreneur, but we know that working with other people, you have better social connections, which increases productivity, happiness, and all the things. So in every project that I'm working on, I'm looking for partners. I'm not going to be doing anything by myself moving forward. And I'm being intentional about that. When you speak about vulnerability, there's all kinds of science around vulnerability. So if my purpose is to share my knowledge and information from all my years of experience in mental health, well, that requires me to be vulnerable too, and not just share other people's experiences, but share my own as well. So I'm being very thoughtful about how do I practice what I preach, so to speak, to make sure that I'm not just sharing data, but also sharing experiences and using that data for my own happiness.
I think collaboration and partnerships are such a core function of getting a business off the ground. At least that's what I've seen in the past 2.5 years even. I don't think Nick and I would have been able to get to where we're at without having these really good partnerships with other organizations that shared the values we had, were equally as driven and motivated to do something meaningful in the work that they were doing. I think it really helps to, you got to be mindful and continue to stay in alignment with the people you partner with. But there's so much to gain. And I think women in particular do a really good job of partnering and collaborating in my experience. And I think we're also more, at least, I shouldn't say we all are, but at least the community we're in now is very much about being honest and asking for what you need and giving what you can. I think all of that plays into it so that you can pursue a strategy of partnership. Yeah. And what do you guys need? What do we need? What are we all trying to do? And making sure when it's mutually beneficial. I mean, it's amazing and it makes it so rewarding.
I think women are definitely getting better at this. I don't think we've always been good at it, but I think we're getting better. And I think the collaboration over competition, I think that we're all starting to realize that, one, we're going to remove some anxiety from our lives. We're going to take negative energy out of our lives. I'm just such a big believer in I'd rather collaborate over be a competition, because a rising tide can lift all boats. Why wouldn't we all want to support each other? We're better together. Like men, so cute. I feel like men have always done this blindly, and I think women have always held each other to like this. I don't know if she's gonna do good, or I don't know her. Like, who cares? Like, just support someone. Like, you don't. It doesn't need to affect you completely. I think we think it's gonna affect us, and I'm like, no. Like, just because you decided to support someone, it's not really gonna affect you. Like, it's only gonna be a positive thing. Like, I tried to help someone. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But like, I tried to.
When I work with young women leaders, I always say, be the kind of woman that fixes another woman's crown. And it's like, just help each other out.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that goes from like all scales, like from lipstick on your teeth to literally like, hey, I want to help you at an event, like on all levels. Like, seriously, like if I have something in my face, tell me. Please.
So I actually, and this is so off the topic of anything we're talking about, but I am listening to an audiobook and it talked about how that example they use as like broccoli in your teeth or lipstick on your teeth, not telling someone is the mistake is mistaking kindness and politeness. So people are trying to be polite by not saying something because they're trying to spare you in the moment, but kindness is being honest with them so they can know and be better going forward. So the fact that you just said lips, I'm like, Adam Grant, he's my man, hidden talent. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Well, I think that this has been a really good conversation. I really hope people listening to this are realizing that they're not alone. That was the whole purpose of the Daily Drip. And, you know, Nicole and I met in an effort to support one another. Like that was really like our mission, our drive. And it became what everyone is a part of today, right? Was like, how can we help elevate, support, and put other people, you know, like help them succeed and see everybody winning? I think it speaks to the abundance rather than right? Scarcity mindset. And so that ends today's episode. And yes, and I hope everyone will listen because we are going to have part 2, which will be talking about graduating from working in the business to on the business. So everyone will have to tune in. Thanks for listening to this episode of Her Pursuit. You can catch a new episode every other Wednesday. Please don't forget to subscribe or follow so that you don't miss out on any of the good stuff.
We love bringing you free content and value to help inspire and motivate you. So if you enjoyed this episode, throw us a thumbs up, leave us a rating, a review, and send this to a friend who you think would enjoy it. Your support is so important to us, and we wouldn't be able to do any of this without you. So thanks for listening. Talk to you in 2 weeks.